Dobro jutro, lepo pozdravljeni na to mrzlo jutro, ampak lepo sončno jutro. Verjamem, da je pred nami blagoslovljen dopoldan, predvsem in seveda, da nas bodo dobra sporočila, ki jih bomo slišali danes, ki pomenijo nadaljevanje tega, o čemer smo govorili tudi včeraj v Mariboru, spremljala tudi vnaprej. Pozdravljam vse tiste, ki niste bili včeraj z nami v Mariboru, mogoče boste rabili malo, da se vključite v dogajanje, ker vendarle to, o čemer smo govorili, je nekako tisti temelj, na katerem nadaljujemo danes, ampak prav tako sem prepričan, da ne bo pretežko, da bo to šlo relativno lahko in hitro. Najprej bi vas povabil k molitvi, tako da vabim, da vstanemo in da z molitvijo začnemo to naše proučevanje. Dragi naš nebeški Oče, hvala ti za to priložnost, ki jo imamo, da smo lahko zbrani tukaj, da lahko odpiramo tvojo besedo, se učimo iz nje in da na podlagi tega gradimo svoje zaupanje vate in seveda tudi svoje življenje. Odpri naše misli za sprejemanje sporočil, ki jih imaš pripravljenih za nas. Blagoslovi nas pri tem, blagoslovi Jana, ki bo govoril, nam podajal te stvari in daj, da bo vse storjeno pod vodstvom tvojega svetega duha. Tvoje roke se izročamo in te prosimo za tvoj blagoslov. Amen.
Dobro jutro. Božji blagoslov vam. Thank you for coming this morning as well, this chilly morning.
Hvala, ker ste prišli tudi na to mrzlo jutro.
And coming is part of this removal. It's not the final, it's not the first, but it's only one part of it.
Drugi Jesusov prihod je del odstranitve zla, ne prvi, ne končni, ampak del te odstranitve zla.
Okay, people have noticed in the New Testament that for every 20 verses there is one that speaks about the second coming.
Ljudje so zapazili, da v Novi zavezi na vsakih 20 vrstic pride ena, ki govori o drugem Jezusovem prihodu.
Well, altogether they say there are about 318 verses in 260 chapters.
In skupaj pravijo, da je 318 takšnih vrstic v 260 poglavjih.
A lot.
Precej.
Now, we can't go through these texts.
Sedaj ne moremo iti skozi vsa ta besedila.
And when I usually have a similar presentation, I have it a little bit longer, just on the second coming, for maybe 2-3 hours.
In ko imam običajno podobna predavanja, imam ta malo daljša, govorimo o Jezusovem drugem prihodu vsaj 2 do 3 ure.
And I usually do read some key sections from the Gospels, the New Testament letters and the Revelation.
In običajno beremo potem nekatera ključna besedila iz evangelijev, iz pisem in iz razodetja.
Now I can't do it this morning quite, so what I can do, I can just mention the text to you and you can go home if you want. But you know most of these texts anyway.
To, kar lahko naredim, je, da omenim nekatera od teh besedil, večino tako ali tako poznate in jih potem sami tudi preberete.
So in the Gospels, it's Matthew 24, of course, Luke 21, Mark 13, which are the main chapters.
V evangelijih so tista glavna poglavja, ki govorijo o Jezusovem drugem prihodu, evangelij po Mateju 24, po Luku 21 in Marku 13.
You also have Luke 17, by the way, verses 20-24.
Prav tako boste našli besedila o tem tudi v Luku 17. poglavju od 20. do 24. vrstice.
Then you have sections in the letters, New Testament letters.
Potem imamo odlomke, ki so v novozaveznih pismih.
You have Thessalonians, epistles of Peter, 1 Corinthians, Titus and Hebrews.
In besedila se nahajajo v prvem pismu Tesaloničanom, Titovem pismu in Hebrejcem, ter Petrovem pismu.
He's reading from my Slovak notes, because I have Slovak notes.
Ja berem zdaj iz slovaških zapisnikov.
1 Thessalonians 4, for example, is one of those sections.
Prvo pismo Tesaloničanom, 4. poglavje, recimo eden takšnih
1
odlomkov.
Thessalonians 5,
Prvo Tesaloničanom 5,
2 Thessalonians 2,
druga Tesaloničanom 2,
2 Peter 3,
druga Petrovo pismo 3,
the text we had yesterday, 1 Corinthians 15,
besedilo, ki smo ga imeli včeraj, 1. Korinčanom 15,
Titus 2:13,
Titu 2.13,
Hebrews 9:28.
Hebrejcem 9.28.
So this is just the main chapters or sections in the letters. And then you have the book of Revelation.
To so samo tisti glavni odlomki in potem imamo seveda tukaj še razodetje.
So Revelation 6:9-17.
Razodetjem 6, 9 do 17,
7:13-14.
7, 13 in 14,
9:13-21.
9, 13 do 21,
11:15-19.
11, 15 do 19,
Chapter 13,
13 poglavje,
15,
15,
16,
16,
17,
17,
and well, 1:8 you can say as well. 1:7 you can say as well.
in prav tako lahko omenimo tudi prvo poglavje, 7 vrstica.
Now, in the Old Testament, if you want to just have a brief overview, in the Old Testament, of course, you don't have the second coming mentioned as a separate event.
V stari zavezi seveda nimamo omenjenega drugega Jezusovega prihoda kot posebnega dogodka,
Because they expected the first coming of the Messiah.
zato ker so pričakovali prvi Mesijo prihod.
But still, you get one text in the Old Testament
Toda
which points to this direction.
kljub temu imate v stari zavezi eno besedilo, ki usmerja v tej smeri.
Especially when you look back from the New Testament point of view, then the persecution and the rescue is there in the text.
Še posebej, če gledate nazaj na to besedilo iz perspektive Nove zaveze, potem v njem najdete omenjeno preganjanje in rešitev.
So Daniel 12, verses 1-3.
Daniel 12. poglavje od 1. do 3. vrstice.
Okay, this is your homework. If you want to do, then please go ahead.
To je vaša domača naloga, če želite opraviti, preberite vsa ta besedila.
And if we had time to read all those texts and then think about what do they say, what kind of points we take out of them,
In če bi imeli čas seveda brati vsa ta besedila in razmišljati o tem, kaj pravijo, kaj se iz njih lahko naučimo,
then we would get maybe 6 major points.
potem bi verjetno prišli do 6 glavnih točk.
So this is the kind of theological meaning of the second coming, if you want.
To je nekako teološki pomen Jezusovega drugega prihoda.
Now, I'm not going to spend lots of time about these, and many of these are obvious points from the texts.
Ne bom veliko časa porabil za te točke, ker gre za očitne točke, ki izvirajo iz besedila.
But still, for us to have this overview, let's just mention them. Number one,
Ampak-
Jesus' coming will be global.
Da bi nekako razumeli, to jih omenimo. Jezusov prihod bo globalen.
Plenty of texts in the New Testament say it's not going to be somewhere hidden or local, it's global.
Veliko besedil pravi, da ne bo šlo za nek krajevni dogodek, za skrit dogodek, ampak za nekaj globalnega.
For example, Luke 17 says that it will be like a lightning going from one end of the sky to the other end.
Luka 17. poglavje pravi, da bo kot blisk, ki se sveti od enega konca neba do drugega.
It will be glorious, you know.
Veličastno bo to.
It's interesting that the Gospels, for example, Matthew 24, they are warning those who will be expecting the second coming that don't go with local news about false messiahs.
Zanimivo je, da evangelije, še posebej Matej 24. poglavje, svarijo tiste, ki pričakujejo Jezusov prihod, da naj ne sledijo nekim lokalnim novicam o prihodu lažnih mesij.
And very interestingly, in Revelation 13, there is a reference to the fire coming down from heaven from the dragon.
In v razodetju 13 imamo omenjen ogenj, ki prihaja z neba in sicer od zmaja.
And, you know, it's a reference to the famous story of Elijah on the Mount Carmel.
In gre za namig na znamenito zgodbo Eliju na gori Karmel,
And who is the true God.
kjer je bilo vprašanje, kdo je pravi Bog.
So in this sense, the scripture is warning that perhaps there will be this, and also in the light of Ellen White, this fake second coming, which will exactly look like the second coming, but it won't be.
In Svetopismo na ta način svari pred lažnim drugim prihodom, ki bo videti kot pravi drugi prihod, ampak ne bo.
So the unholy trio will fake the second coming, and it will be a deception to which people will simply respond.
Torej, nesveti trio bo ponaredil Jezusov drugi prihod in to bo prevara, na katero se bodo ljudje odzivali.
So this is why to have the kind of global understanding is crucial.
Zato je to globalno razumevanje pomembno.
Secondly, Jesus' coming will be personal.
Drugič, Jezusov prihod bo oseben.
It's not going to be a transformation of this world into something better, a better world.
Ne bo šlo za preobrazbo tega sveta v nek boljši svet.
You know that there is lots of stuff in theology which is called realized eschatology.
V teologiji je veliko govora o tako imenovani uresničeni eskatologiji.
And it teaches that basically God's kingdom will come by slow transformation of this world into God's kingdom.
In ta nauk uči, da bo Božje kraljestvo prišlo v ta svet po malih korakih in preobrazbi sveta v Božje kraljestvo.
It's not a slow transformation, it's personal and it's global.
Ne gre za počasno preobrazbo, gre za globalni in oseben dogodek, ki se bo zgodil.
Number 3, Jesus' coming will be visible,
Jezusov prihod bo viden, številka 3,
which is more or less obvious from the first 2 points.
kar je seveda bolj ali manj očitno že v prvih 2 točkah.
And now 2 important points.
In zdaj 2 pomembni točki.
And they come from 1 Thessalonians 5.
In obe sta iz prvega pisma Tesaloničanom 5. poglavja.
The first point is this: Jesus' coming will be sudden and unexpected for his enemies.
Jezusov prihod bo nenaden in za njegove sovražnike nepričakovan.
Point number 5 says that his coming won't be unexpected for his faithful.
Točka številka 5 pa pravi, da Jezusov prihod ne bo nepričakovan za njegove zveste.
In the first 3 verses in 1 Thessalonians, Paul speaks about God's enemies, how they are surprised by his appearance.
V prvih 3 vrsticah 5. poglavja prvega pisma Tesaloničanom Pavel govori o božjih sovražnikih, kako so ti presenečeni, ko vidijo pojavitev Jezusa.
But then in verses 4 and 5, it says, you brothers, you don't live in darkness so that this day would surprise you.
V 4. in 5. vrstici pa pravi, vi pa, bratje, ne živite v temi, da bi vas ta dan presenetil.
So it's not surprising to the faithful of Jesus.
Torej, za tiste, ki so zvesti Jezusu, ta dogodek ni presenečenje.
What I'm trying to say here, for Paul's brothers in the church, the day of the Lord is not like a thief in the night.
Kar želim tukaj poudariti je, da za Pavlove sovernike Gospodov dan ni kot tat po noči.
In fact, his point is, you should not be surprised by it.
Pravzaprav je njegovo sporočilo, ne bi smeli biti presenečeni s tem,
Because you don't live in the darkness like other people do.
ker ne živite v temi, tako kot drugi ljudje.
So there is no surprise for the faithful of Jesus.
Zato za zveste Jezusu ni presenečenje.
Maybe they would not know exactly the specific timing of it,
Ne bodo poznali natančnega trenutka prihoda,
but they would know that the day of the Lord is not just about one surprising event.
toda vedeli bodo, da Gospodov dan ni samo en presenetljiv dogodek,
but that something precedes it and something follows.
ampak da je nekaj pred njim in da mu nekaj sledi.
And so when they will see the signs of the Sabbath going global,
Ko bodo torej videli znamenje sobote, ki je globalno,
so when they see the intensification of the persecution, as Revelation 13 says,
ko bodo videli, kako preganjanje, ki je opisano v razodetju 13, postaja močnejše,
and if they see globally major plagues coming to this world,
in če doživijo in izkusijo globalno šibe, ki prihajajo na svet,
they know that the next historical event will be the second coming of Jesus.
potem bodo vedeli, da bo naslednji zgodovinski dogodek Jezusov drugi prihod.
People who don't know about the day of the Lord, they may be thinking, well, something strange is happening, but the world will simply go on.
Ljudje, ki tega ne vedo, bodo preprosto mislili, da dogaja se nekaj nenavadnega, ampak svet se nadaljuje, tako kot je bil.
So let me also tell you this then.
Zato vam želim povedati tudi to.
The biblical story, the Bible, doesn't teach from its larger perspective that Jesus can come at any time.
Svetopismo iz te širše perspektive nikjer ne uči o tem, da Jezus lahko pride kadarkoli.
For example, tomorrow, he can't.
Naprimer jutri, ne more.
Or in a week time.
Ali pa čez teden dni.
Or in a month time.
Ali pa čez en mesec.
No.
Ne.
We don't believe in immediate coming of Jesus.
Ne verjamemo, ne verujemo v trenutni, neposredni
We
Jezusov
believe in
dogodek,
a near
prihod.
coming, which is part of a larger sequence of the day of the Lord.
Pričakujemo pa njegov skorajšnji prihod, ki je del širšega zaporedja dogodkov.
And it's the day of the Lord that helps us to understand just how the theology of the second coming works.
In Gospodov dan nam pomaga razumeti, kako teologija o Jezusovem prihodu deluje.
And this is why the last point number 5, in the first
Da ko Jezus pride in bomo vzeti na oblaku proti njemu in bomo dobili novo telo in doživeli večno srečo, ni svetopisemsko.
as much as the second coming of Jesus is crucial, is significant, it's great and transformatory for God's people, it is not the event which will take God's people home.
Ne glede na to, kako pomemben, veličasten in poseben je drugi Jezusov prihod, kakšno razliko prinaša, ni to tisti dogodek, ki bo odpeljal Božje ljudstvo domov.
And it's not the event that will be able to wipe away your tears.
In ni dogodek, ki bo izbrisal solze z vaših oči.
For that there is something else.
Zato je potrebno nekaj drugega.
And something I will mention in a second.
In kaj je to, bom omenil malo pozneje.
Okay, one of the immediate benefits or signs of the second coming is the first resurrection.
Eno od prvih prednosti Jezusovega drugega prihoda in znamen tega je prvo vstajenje.
And I just want you to notice the logic here.
In rad bi, da zapazite tukaj logiko.
You had a judgment, pre-advent judgment before,
Imeli smo predadventno sodbo,
that decided something,
ki je nekaj odločila,
and the decision is shown in the first resurrection. Right?
in odločitev, ki je bila sprejeta, se vidi v prvem vstajenju.
So how come some people are resurrected and taken with Jesus?
Torej,
It must be based on something.
kako to, da so nekateri ljudje deležni tega prvega vstajenja in da gredo z Jezusom, to mora temeljiti na nečem.
Pre-advent judgment, first resurrection.
Predadventna sodba, prvo vstajenje.
Then after the second coming, you have the millennial judgment,
Po drugem prihodu imate milenijsko ali tisočletno sodbo.
and you have the second result of it, second resurrection.
In potem imate drugi rezultat tega, to je drugo vstajenje.
It's very logical, the way the day of the Lord works.
Zelo logično deluje Gospodov dan.
Judgment, resurrection, judgment, resurrection.
Sodba, vstajenje, sodba, vstajenje.
So you know what? Generally speaking, we Christians are afraid of the word of judgment.
Nasplošno rečeno se kristijani sodbe bojimo.
But actually, you want your name to be discussed at this ongoing first judgment.
Toda v resnici si želite, da bi vaše ime bilo obravnavano na tej prvi sodbi, ki traja.
If you want to have first resurrection.
Če želite biti v prvem vstajenju.
So we should be praying, Lord, please judge me.
Zato bi naša molitev morala biti: Gospod, prosim, sodi mi.
Because I have put my trust in you and judge me with your righteousness, with your judgment.
Ker zaupam vate, zato mi sodi v svoji pravičnosti.
Because we know from the scripture that this judgment is on behalf, in favor of God's people.
Ker iz Svetega pisma vemo, da je ta sodba v korist Božjega ljudstva.
And God is on the side of those who ask their names to be judged by Him.
In Bog je na strani tistih, katerih imena se sodijo.
Okay. That's enough, I suppose, about the second coming.
Mislim, da je to trenutno dovolj o drugem prihodu.
Right after the second coming,
Takoj po drugem prihodu,
I said this yesterday to you,
včeraj sem to povedal,
God's people are taken maybe to a short party, but not a long one probably.
je Božje ljudstvo popeljano na krajšo, lahko rečemo, proslavljanje, ampak ne ravno dolgo.
You don't have the word party.
I can use it. It's
okay.
difficult.
I know.
It has negative connotations.
I know this is how it's
Yeah.
It's interesting because there will be joys, of course, rejoicing among God's people.
Zanimivo je seveda to, ker med Božjim ljudstvom bo veselje. Veselili se bodo.
But at the same time, lots of questions
Ampak hkrati bo obstajalo veliko vprašanj.
and difficult questions about life and righteousness.
In to
and
težkih
injustice.
vprašanj o življenju, o pravičnosti, o krivici.
And so, by God resurrecting His people, He is immediately employing them in His activity of the day of the Lord. Wow.
In čim Bog obudi svoje ljudstvo, torej na prvem stojanju jih takoj vključuje v svojo aktivnost velikega gospodovega dne.
They are now becoming part of even the judgment, day of the Lord proceedings.
Zdaj ti postajajo del sodbe, ki je del gospodovega dne.
Can you imagine God like this?
Si lahko zamišljate takšnega Boga?
He's not somebody who resurrects people, and says, well, by the way, sit down, enjoy the ride. I'll show you how I sort out the day of the Lord.
Bog ni Bog, ki bi obudil ljudi v življenje in rekel, lepo, zdaj pa tukaj sedite in gledajte in uživajte v tem, kar bom jaz delal.
It's like big cinema, screen 3D or 4D maybe, and see how I deal with evil.
Torej, kot da bi sedeli pred velikim zaslonom 3D, 4D in Bog pravi, zdaj gledajte, kako jaz se ravnam z zlom.
He doesn't do it. That's interesting, right?
Bog ne počne tega in to je zanimivo, ali ne?
He immediately involves, employs his people. He trusts them, saying, okay, here are my archives, be part of this.
Bog nemudoma vključuje svoje ljudstvo, zaupa mu in pravi, tukaj so moji arhivi, bodite del tega.
See if the first judgment on which you didn't, you were not part of the first judgment, see if this judgment made the right decision about those who still sleep.
Poglejte, ali je prva sodba, katere del niste bili, sprejela pravilne odločitve glede tistih, ki še vedno spijo. Niste bili.
On the first judgment, only angels, heavenly beings.
Na prvi sodbi so samo angeli, nebeška bitja.
So he says, to his people, my archives are open. You have questions. Why is this person here with me? I'm not so sure about him or her.
Bog pravi svojemu ljudstvu, moji arhivi so odprti, ker imate vprašanje, zakaj je ta oseba tukaj z mano. Jaz nisem ravno prepričan, da je to pravi prostor za analizanjo.
And God's people won't have this just attitude. You got decided, of course, it's like that.
In Božje ljudstvo ne bo imelo te drže, Bog, ti si tako rekel, tako je.
Because they know that God is the most loving, sensitive, and so they can trust Him, and so they also trust His people now.
Zato, ker poznajo Boga kot najbolj ljubečega, modrega in seveda občutljivega za stanje ljudi in zato mu zaupajo.
This is why we're in the church, because we trust God.
Zato smo v cerkvi, ker Bogu zaupamo.
And so, in an amazing way, God is employing His people in the proceedings.
In na en osupljiv način Bog vključuje svoje ljudstvo v svoje aktivnosti.
So, I'll just jump over some slides as I go. You got these texts about the millennial judgment.
Tukaj imamo nekaj besedil, ki govorijo o milenijski sodbi.
And particularly Revelation 20.
In še posebej besedilo o razodetju 20.
We're not going to quite read everything.
Ne bomo brali vsega.
This is the text from 1 Corinthians, so the emphasis is on here how he finishes off evil, and part of that is that God's people are also.
To je besedilo iz 1. Korinčanom. Videli smo včeraj že to in govorili o tem in poudarek je tukaj na tem delu, kako Bog zaključuje svoje delo in vključuje svoje ljudstvo.
So we'll jump over Corinthians and we'll go to 20. So if you can read this text,
prebrali bomo besedilo v razodetju 20. Se pričujem. Sorry, something is happening. Nato sem videl angela, ki se je spuščal z neba. V roki je držal ključ k breznu in veliko verigo. Ugnal je zmaja, staro kačo, to je hudiča in satana, in ga zvezal za 1000 let. Nato ga je vrgel v brezno, ga tam zaklenil in zapečatil nad njim, da ne bi več zapeljeval narodov, dokler se ne dopolni 1000 let. Potem mora biti za nekaj časa odvezan. Nato sem videl prestole. Tistim, ki so sedli na nje, je bila dana oblast, da so sodili. Videl sem duše tistih, ki so bili obglavljeni zaradi Jezusovega pričevanja in zaradi Božje besede. Videl sem vse tiste, ki niso molili zveri in njene podobe in si niso vtisnili na čelo in na roko njenega žiga. Oživeli so in kraljevali s Kristusom 1000 let. Drugi mrtvi pa niso oživeli, dokler se ni dopolnilo 1000 let. To je prvo vstajenje. Blažen in svet, kdor ima delež pri prvem vstajenju. Nad takimi druga smrt nima nobene oblasti, ampak bodo postali Božji in Kristusovi duhovniki ter bodo kraljevali z njim 1000 let.
So, when you follow the book of Revelation, as I said yesterday, from about chapter 12 to 22,
Ko sledite knjigi Razodetja od poglavja 12 do 22, kot sem omenil včeraj,
you see the order of things.
vidite vrstni red stvari.
You got the second coming described between 16 to 19,
Opis drugega prihoda je v Razodetju 16 do 19
two different images.
z različnimi slikami.
And then you have chapter 20.
In potem pride 20. poglavje.
Why doesn't the Bible go after the second coming to chapter 21?
Zakaj svetopismo ne gre po Jezusovem drugem prihodu kar na 21. poglavje?
Why there is no new earth immediately?
Zakaj ni takoj nove zemlje?
Because clearly at the second coming, evil is not sorted out.
Očitno zaradi tega, ker drugi prihod ne razreši vprašanje zla.
And so we have chapter 20 spotted in between the second coming sections and then the end sections.
Zato imamo 20. poglavje, ki je vstavljeno med odlomke, ki govorijo o drugem prihodu in odlomke, ki govorijo o koncu.
We said something about God's people, how God is going to involve them.
Nekaj smo že omenili o tem, kako bo Bog vključil svoje ljudstvo.
And notice the language in the text that they will be priests
In zapazite v besedilu, da bodo Božji in Kristusovi duhovniki,
and they will reign.
da bodo kraljevali.
What does it mean?
Kaj to pomeni?
You know what was the function of the king in the Old Testament, the primary function?
Ali veste, kaj je bila primarna naloga kralja v Stari zavezi?
In the nations among Israel, it was to wage wars mostly,
V narodih okrog Izraela v glavnem je ta naloga bila vojskovati se v vojnah.
he was the general basically,
To je bil general v glavnem.
but not in Israel.
To, da ne v Izraelu.
He was to be the righteous judge.
V Izraelu je kralj moral biti pravični sodnik.
When you look at the prayer of Solomon, for example, in Psalm 72,
Ko si ogledate Salomonovo molitev v 72. psalmu,
he is asking for a heart and eyes to understand the pains, to see the oppressed and to help them in righteousness and judgment.
prosi za srce in oči, da bi videl zatirane in jim pomagal do pravičnosti.
So, in the Old Testament, the king is the judge.
V Stari zavezi je kralj, torej sodnik.
And you know the language of the Revelation is based on the Old Testament.
In veste, da jezik Razodetja temelji na Stari zavezi.
So they lived, they were resurrected, we spoke about this, they received resurrection at the second coming.
Torej, Božje ljudstvo je bilo obojeno, živijo, prejeli so življenje ob drugem prihodu.
And now they become not just floating somewhere in heaven, but actually kings, i.e. judges.
In zdaj ne plavajo nekje v nebesih, ampak so kralji, torej sodniki.
Wow. So it doesn't mean that we will be just served by whatever angelic servants. It means we will be employed in the judgment.
To ne pomeni, da nam bodo angelski služabniki služili, ampak pomeni, da bomo vključeni v sodbo.
So this is interesting. Two more points. One about 1,000 years and the second about Satan, the old serpent.
Še dve točke bi tukaj omenil, eno o 1000 letih in drugo o Satanu, stari kači.
Let me take first the old serpent point.
Najprej o stari kači.
It's interesting that text immediately focuses, narrows down on the serpent.
Zanimivo je, da se besedilo takoj osredotoči na to staro kačo.
And notice in verse 3 it says, he deceived the nations. Right?
In v 3. vrsti pravi, da je ta kača zapeljevala narode.
He was a deceiver, a liar from the beginning.
Bil je zapeljevalec, tisti, ki laže od samega začetka.
How did he make Eve basically to believe him and not to believe God?
Kako je Satan prepričal Evo, da je verjela njemu in ne Bogu?
Was it by physical interrogation?
Z nečim telesnim je začel daviti?
It was convincing her in her mind.
Ne,
and heart.
prepričal je v njenih mislih, v njenem srcu.
Remember the passage in the Gospels where Jesus says to Jews as well, that you are from your father like your father, because he was a liar from the beginning.
Spomnite se odlomka v Evangelijih, ko Jezus pravi tistim, ki so ga obtoževali, vi ste, kakršen je vaš oče, ki je lažnivec od začetka.
I think it's in John 8.
Mislim, da je v Janezu 8. poglavju to zapisano. Zakaj ne razumete mojega govorjenja? Ker ne zmorete poslušati moje besede. Vi pa ste od svojega očeta, hudiča, in hočete uresničevati njegove želje. On je bil od začetka morilec ljudi in ni obstajal v resnici, ker v njem ni resnice. Kadar govori laž, govori svojega, ker je lažnivec in oče laži. Toda, ker govorim resnico, mi ne verjamete.
So how did the serpent murder Adam and Eve?
Kako je kača umorila Adama in Evo?
Govori laž.
Z govorjenjem laži.
Because he is a lie. That's his mode of operation.
Ker laž je njegov način delovanja.
The great controversy,
Veliki boj,
as Paul says somewhere else, is not our battle against flesh and blood.
kot Pavel pravi, nekje ni naš boj proti mesu in krvi.
Sometimes we make it in the church to fight against people, almost physically, literally.
Včasih se v cerkvi bojujemo proti ljudem, skoraj da fizično, telesno.
We try to discipline them by disfellowshipping them physically away from the church.
Poskušamo jih disciplinirati s tem, da jih fizično odstranimo, torej iz cerkve, izključimo.
Our battle is not administrative, it's about winning people's minds and hearts.
Naša bitka ni administrativna, naša bitka je pridobiti misli in srca ljudi.
So, when the serpent and the Satan is bound
Ko je kača, ko je Satan zvezan,
in Revelation 20, it's a reference that he doesn't have anything to do.
v Razodetju 20 je to referenca ali omemba tega, da nima kaj početi.
So this is interesting. And then you have 1 Corinthians 6.
In potem imamo besedilo 1. Korinčanom 6. Mar ne veste, da bodo svetu sodili sveti? In če boste vi sodili svetu, ste mar nevredni, da bi bili sodniki v najmanjših rečeh? Mar ne veste, da bomo sodili angelov, pa ne bi vsakdanjim rečem?
So when will the saints judge the world and the angels?
Kdaj bodo sveti sodili svetu in angelom?
Not at the pre-advent judgment, because they are not part of it.
Ne na predadventni sodbi, ker niso del te sodbe.
So there must be a section, a time, when they get the chance to judge, to be judges.
Torej mora obstajati nek čas, neka priložnost, kjer bodo oni sodili.
And of course, if we combine this with Jude and Revelation, we don't have to read this, but basically those texts speak about the angels of the dragon.
In če združimo to z besedili v Judovem pismu in v Razodetju, ki govorita o angelih zmaja,
then those texts fit very well with the image of the judgment that is coming at one point where the Satan and his angels are judged.
in ta besedila potem lepo ustrezajo temu, da prihaja sodba, na kateri bodo sojeni Satan in njegovi angeli.
And it's basically their lies are judged, their deception is unmasked.
In tisto, čemur so sodi, so njihove laži, njihove prevare so razkrinkane.
Evil is very intriguing. We need to have answers to lots of injustice that we experience in the world.
Zlo je zelo vznemirljivo, potrebujemo odgovore na številna krivična dejanja, ki jih vidimo v svetu.
and God will provide the space for it.
In Bog bo ponudil prostor za te odgovore.
The text in Revelation says, "For they reigned for 1,000 years."
Besedilo v Razodetju pravi, da so sveti vladali 1000 let.
There's plenty of discussion about whether it's literal or metaphorical.
Veliko je diskusij o tem, ali gre za dejansko 1000 let ali zgolj za simbolno število.
In any case, if John is also a Hebrew writer,
Ker je Janez tudi Hebrejec po načinu razmišljanja,
then he uses the word Aleph in Hebrew as the highest possible number he can say.
potem besedo elef v hebrejščini uporablja kot najvišje možno število, ki ga lahko izreče.
You can't say 5 million in Hebrew,
V hebrejščini ne morete reči 5 milijonov
in they're all Hebrew.
v stari hebrejščini.
This is why when you had the vision in Daniel 7,
Zato imate vizijo v Danielu 7,
and Daniel, is taken to a vision to heaven, and he says, thousands, 10,000, thousands of angels. It doesn't say 50 billion. Just thousands.
in Daniel govori o tisočih in tisočih angelov, ne pravi 5 milijard angelov,
Because he can't say more than 11,
ker ne more reči več kot elef,
1,000.
tisoč.
So what it means is that this judgment will take as much time as needed.
To, kar to besedilo pomeni, da bo ta sodba trajala toliko časa, kolikor je potrebno.
As much time as you need to take and sift through everything what pains you.
Toliko časa, da se prebijete skozi vse, kar vas boli.
So it means also that our stay in heaven is only temporary.
Kar prav tako pomeni, da je naše bivanje v nebesih samo začasno.
And there will be something else. So let's come to the main purpose of the millennial judgment.
Pridimo torej sedaj do glavnega namena te milenijske sodbe.
So millennial judgment has judicial explanatory purpose.
Milenijska sodba ima sodni, pojasnjevalni namen.
It clarifies the decision of the pre-advent judgment and addresses all the questions which arise from this decision.
Pojasnjuje odločitev predadventne sodbe in tako odgovarja na vsa vprašanja, ki izvirajo iz te odločitve.
The good word is clarifies.
Dobra beseda je tukaj pojasnjuje.
You can call it a clarification judgment
Lahko jo imenujete pojasnjevalna sodba
or a revelatory judgment
ali sodba, ki razkriva,
because it fundamentally reveals the whys.
ker v bistvu razkriva odgovore na zakaj vprašanje.
We don't know the whys, and we need some answers to our why.
In mi potrebujemo odgovore na naša vprašanja, ki se začnejo z zakaj.
And the judgment points to a sensitive God who says, I'll give you enough time to deal with your whys.
In sodba usmerja na Boga, ki nam namenja dovolj časa, da se ukvarjamo s temi vprašanji.
See for yourselves whether the first judgment has decided correctly on this or that or he or she.
Boga, ki pravi, sami poglejte, pa boste videli, če je prva sodba sprejela pravilne odločitve glede teh oseb.
And for me, this is a gospel about God.
In zame je to evangelije o Bogu.
Because this is an incredibly humbling gesture from God saying, you judge my judgment.
In ker je to zelo ponižno dejanje, ki prihaja s strani Boga in pravi, vi sodite v moji sodbi.
Be part of this judgment.
Bodite del te sodbe.
God has never been this despot who ruled by power and big biceps, by force.
Bog nikoli ni bil despot, ki je vladal z velikimi bicepsi in silo.
This was the lie of the serpent in Genesis 3, who said, I know this God, he is keeping you in darkness because he's this big boss who wants everything for himself.
To je bila laž Satana v 1. Mojzesovi 3. poglavju, ki je govoril o tem Bogu, ki želi Adama in Evo odstraniti od vsega, kar je dobro.
And God is not like that.
Bog ni takšen.
And God's people can experience this today, but also in the future.
Božje ljudstvo lahko to doživi danes, ravno tako pa tudi v prihodnosti.
So I said this to you yesterday as well, that from a pastoral point of view, when we experience injustice and pain in our life,
Včeraj sem to že omenil, da iz pastoralne strani, ko doživimo bolečino in krivico v svetu,
then we should not only say, yes, God has power over life and death and he can resurrect.
Da, Bog ima moč nad življenjem in smrtjo in lahko obudi človeka v življenje,
But far more importantly,
ampak veliko pomembneje,
God has power to answer your whys.
Bog ima moč tudi, da odgovori na vaše zakaj.
And not in a kind of authoritative way saying, just accept this,
In ne na avtoritarni način, ko bi rekel, samo sprejmite to,
but actually, I'll make you kings, judges, and you investigate.
Ampak
Be part of this.
na način, ko pravi, jaz vas bom naredil za sodnike, kralje in bodite del tega, te sodbe.
And once again, it just shows us a God who has never manipulated anything.
In še enkrat tukaj vidimo Boga, ki nikoli ni manipuliral z ničemer.
God said, the serpent said, God is the big manipulator.
Kača je rekla, Bog je veliki manipulator.
Remember the story of Job?
Se spominjate zgodbe o Jobu?
When he came in front of other angels and God and said, does Job serve you for nothing?
Ko je Kača prišla pred Boga in druge angele in rekla, ali je zastonj to, da ti služi Job?
With the implication, actually, he serves you because you gave him either too much or you punish him, and so he will worship you out of, because he has everything, so worship you, or out of fear.
Pričemer je namigoval na to, da Job Bogu služi zato, ker mu ta toliko daje, ali pa zato, ker se ga boji in bo kaznovan, če mu ne bo služil.
And so the serpent says God manipulates.
Zato Kača pravi, Bog manipulira.
You know what? Oftentimes we believe this lie about God.
Pogosto verjamemo tej laži o Bogu.
We're not sure about the things that are happening in the world or around us, and we think it's God's making.
Nismo prepričani o stvarih, ki se dogajajo okrog nas in v življenju, in potem nekako sklepamo, da so posledice Božjega delovanja.
But it's the millennial judgment which actually could be a shock to people if you preach this to people outside.
Toda ta milenijska sodba, če o njej govorite, je lahko za ljudi zunaj šok.
A shock to people who think that God is this big boss, because this is the image. If you read Richard Dawkins, some of the famous atheists, they think God is this big boss running the universe like a big boss.
Šok za ljudi, ki mislijo, da je Bog kot neki veliki šef, ki upravlja z vsem vesoljem
Who dictates how things will be,
in narekuje, kako bodo stvari tekle.
and lo and behold, in the middle of the judgment,
In poglejte, sredi sodbe,
in Revelation 20, you have a text.
v Razodetju 20 imate besedilo,
If you understand this in the larger context, of course, of the day of the Lord, which points to an open and actually very humble and trusting God.
ki usmerja na zelo odprtega, zelo ponižnega Boga in Boga, ki nam veliko zaupa.
You know, at the second coming, when God's people receive resurrection and new bodies,
Ko ob drugem prihodu Božje ljudstvo prejme vstajenje, novo telo,
do you think by magic we'll receive all the healing to our minds and hearts?
ali mislite, da bomo nekako po nekem čarobnem načinu prejeli ozdravitev vsega v naših mislih in naših
Do you
srcih?
think God is going to interfere with our emotions and thinking?
Ali menite, da se bo Bog vmešaval v naše emocije in naše razmišljanje?
If you believe in that, you caught the lie of the serpent.
Če to verjamete, potem ste verjeli Satanovi laži.
Because he is the one, he manipulates like this.
Ker on govori, da Bog manipulira tako.
The only manipulation God does is by free will and love.
Toda Bog manipulira samo svobodno voljo in ljubeznijo, ki nam jo daje.
And so at the second coming, no magic will happen to our feelings of injustice.
Zato se ob drugem prihodu ne bo zgodila nobena čarovnija glede naših čustev povezanih s
I'm not
krivičnostjo.
talking about trust. We do, trust God and everything else, but evil is subtle and can hurt us.
Ne govorimo o zaupanju tukaj, seveda zaupamo Bogu, to da zlo je nekaj potuhnjenega in nas lahko prizadene.
So the first point, the judgment will reveal the wise and will begin the kind of natural healing that we have to individually and collectively go through.
Zato bo ta sodba odgovorila na ta naša vprašanja, zakaj in prinesla to posamezno ozdravitev in skupno ozdravitev, ki jo potrebujemo.
Second point.
Druga točka.
The millennial judgment has hamartological purpose.
Milenijska sodba ima harmatološki namen.
I apologize for the strange word.
Opravičujem se za to čudno besedo.
Hamartological basically means linked with evil or sinful.
Harmatološko pomeni povezano z zlom in grehom.
It means it clarifies evil and sin and who is responsible for evil.
Pojasnjuje zlo in greh in kdo je odgovoren zanj.
In many situations, when something bad happens to us, we immediately say, why God, right?
V številnih situacijah, ko se nam zgodi nekaj slabega, nemudoma rečemo, zakaj Bog?
Why do we say why God? When somebody else is doing evil and it's not God.
Zakaj rečemo, zakaj Bog, ko pa nekdo drug dela zlo in ne Bog?
So in the judgment, God clarifies who is responsible for this.
Torej v sodbi Bog razjasni, kdo je odgovoren za to.
And lastly,
In kot zadnje,
the post-Advent millennial judgment has ecclesiological purpose,
poadventna milenijska sodba ima ekleziološki namen.
which means that it involves God's people and actually it binds God's people.
Kar pomeni, da vključuje Božje ljudstvo in ga povezuje.
You know, this is the first time when God's people will be together.
To je prvič, ko bo Božje ljudstvo, celotno Božje ljudstvo skupaj.
And so when you spend some time with people at conference, in rooms, in churches, you begin to know them, right? Things change, you have shared experience. But God's people have been always separated.
Ko preživite nekaj časa z ljudmi, v kakršnem koli situaciji, kjer ste, začnete spoznavati ljudi in stvari se spreminjajo, ker imate skupne izkušnje. Toda Božje ljudstvo je bilo vedno ločeno.
So, it's a very important time, historical time, that God's people need to go through on the millennial judgment.
Zato je to tako pomemben zgodovinski trenutek, skozi katerega mora iti Božje ljudstvo, ta milenijska sodba.
You see, we are doing injustice to the gospel in the Bible when we say everything is about second coming.
Delamo krivico evangeliju in evangelijem v Svetem pismu, ko pravimo, da se vse vrti okrog drugega prihoda.
All right, what happens after this?
Kaj se zgodi potem?
Well, what we have straight after the millennial judgment,
Kar imamo nemudoma po tej milenijski sodbi,
even though it comes in Revelation 19, which looks slightly out of sync with chapter 20,
čeprav pride v razodetju 19, ki je videti kot neusklajeno z razodetjem 20,
but actually when you combine Revelation, the second part of Revelation 20, which we'll read with this text that you see on the screen, it makes sense.
ampak ko združite razodetje 20 s tem besedilom, ki ga vidimo tukaj, je vse skupaj smiselno.
So let's have a look what's happening here.
Poglejmo si, kaj se zgodi tukaj. Na to sem videl nebo odprto in prikazal se je bel konj. Ta, ki ga je jezdil, se imenuje zvesti in resnični. Ta pravično razsoja in se bojuje. Oči so mu kakor ognjen plamen in na glavi nosi veliko diademov. Napisano pa ima ime, ki ga ne pozna nihče, le on sam. Ogrnjen je v plašč, ki je bil namočen v krvi. Ime mu je Božja beseda. Na belih konjih mu sledijo nebeške vojske, oblečene v belo in čisto tančico. Iz ust mu sega oster meč, da z njim udari po narodih. Pasel jih bo železno palico in tlačil stiskalnico z vinom srdite jeze Boga, vladarja vsega. Na plašču in na boku pa ima napisano ime Kralj kraljev in Gospod gospodov.
So, what do we have in this image?
Kaj imamo tukaj v tej sliki?
We have somebody coming on a white horse,
Nekoga, ki prihaja na belem konju,
called faithful and true.
se imenuje zvesti in resnični.
And at the end of verse 11, he is coming to judgment and war.
In na koncu 11. vrste beremo, da prihaja na sodbo in vojno.
So he judges and makes war.
On razsoja in se bojuje.
Is this about the second coming?
Je to drugi prihod?
In the second coming, there is no war.
V drugem
The
prihodu
king
ni,
doesn't come to wage war.
ni nobene vojne.
He comes to rescue simply.
Jezus ne prihaja bojevati se v vojni, ampak prihaja rešiti.
Verse 14 then.
14. vrsta.
Not only that, but he comes with somebody else.
Ne le to, ampak prihaja še z nekom.
Not with angels of glory here, but it says armies in heaven, not angels.
Ne z angeli slave, ampak pravi z nebeškimi vojskami, ne angeli.
And very importantly, it says clothed in fine linen, white and clean.
Oblečenimi v belo in čisto tančico.
They followed him, it says.
Ti mu sledijo, pravi besedilo.
Who are they?
Kdo so ti?
You know, if you read Revelation 6
Če berete Razodetje 6
and 14 as well,
in 14,
especially 14,
še posebej 14,
you have the reference of those who go into Armageddon
imate omembo tistih, ki gredo v Harmagedon
and then they come out
in potem pridejo ven
victorious
zmagoslavni
after, and it says they received fine and white and clean linen.
in potem beremo, da so prejeli belo in čisto tančico.
It's God's people. It's not armies. I mean angels.
To je Božje ljudstvo, to niso angeli.
You have a picture of a third coming here.
Tukaj imate sliko Jezusovega tretjega prihoda.
And where is the war happening?
In kje se odvija ta vojna?
We can jump in Revelation 19 here.
Just sorry, I have some problems with the animation and copy. There's some problem. Verse 19.
So from 17, yeah.
Yeah.
So you see also this is the continuation of chapter 19.
To je nadaljevanje 19. poglavja.
You know, the main point of this coming is to finish a war, to make war against the evil that is still out there.
In glavni namen tega prihoda je končati vojno proti zlu, ki je še vedno tam.
From verse 19,
Od vrste 19.
I saw the beasts, the kings of the earth, their armies gathered together to make war.
Tedaj sem videl zver ter kralje zemlje, njihove vojske zbrane, da se spopadajo z njim.
And the end result is that they will end up in being thrown into the lake of fire.
In poudarek na koncu je, da bo konec tak, da bodo vrženi v ognjeno jezero.
This is why I said you have to link this text with what's coming in chapter 20 in the second part.
Zato sem rekel, da moramo to besedilo povezati s tem, kar pride v 20. poglavju, v drugem delu poglavja.
So this is what's coming from verse 7.
To se dogaja v vrsti 7.
And it says this, now when the 1,000 years have expired,
Ko pa se dopolni 1000 let, torej ko je teh 1000 let končanih, bo Satan izpuščen iz svoje ječe. Stopil bo na plan, da bi zapeljal narode, ki so na 4 vogalih zemlje, Goga in Magoga, ter jih zbral na vojsko. Njih število bo kakor je peska ob morju. Šli so v napad po zemljski širjavi, ter obkolili tabor svetih in ljubljeno mesto. A z neba je padel ogenj in jih použil. Hudič pa, ki jih je zapeljal, je bil vržen v jezero z ognjem in žveplom, kjer sta tudi zver in lažni prerok. Tam bodo mučeni po dnevi in po noči na veke vekov.
So, this is clearly an event which comes after the millennial judgment, right?
To je očitno dogodek, ki pride na vrsto po milenijski sodbi.
The serpent gets back to his old job.
Kača se vrne nazaj k svojemu prvotnemu delu.
And you know what he does? It says in verse 8, to deceive immediately.
In kar pravi tukaj 8. vrsta, pravi, da bi zapeljal narode.
So, they will be resurrected, which comes a little bit later in the text of 20, it says.
Tudi ti bodo vstali, kot beremo malo kasneje v besedilu.
And you probably know that Ellen White says that he convinces those resurrected, saying, I have resurrected you.
In Ellen White piše o tem, kako prepriča tiste, ki so obojeni v življenje, da jih je on obudil.
You know, when God said, you will die, don't believe him. Look, you are up again.
Ko Bog pravi, ne verjamite mu, ker boste umrla, sedaj imamo nekoga, ki pravi, gledajte, živa sta.
It's interesting. People went into the graves seeing the second coming. Some of them, not all, but you know, many of them.
Ljudje so šli v svoj grob videč drugi prihod, ne vsi, ampak
With
nekateri,
hatred against God and his people.
sovraštvom proti Bogu in njegovemu ljudstvu.
And when they rise up and they see the glory of the New Jerusalem,
In ko vstanejo in vidijo slavo novega Jeruzalema
and they know they are on the other side, actually,
in vedo, da so zunaj mesta,
they still want to fight it.
se želijo boriti.
I mean, tell me, how can universe continue like this?
Kako bi lahko vesolje obstajalo v takšnem stanju?
Whether good or evil, nothing ever will move these people or these angels to change their hearts and attitudes towards God.
Ker niti dobro, niti zlo ne bo nikoli premaknilo teh angelov in teh ljudi, da spremenijo svojo držo do zla in do Boga.
And so the result is that the fire comes down, and this is the point when basically the judgment ends in an executive act.
In rezultat je, da pride ogenj z neba in to je trenutek, ko se sodba v izvršnem dejanju konča.
Before that, it also says here that they received the judgment basically,
In tukaj beremo, da so prejeli sodbo
and then comes the second death.
in potem pride druga smrt.
Okay, I'm trying to rush you a little bit here. We'll jump over that one. And we don't have to do Revelation 20. Just one point, that even those with this judgment, you have some text in Philippians, Romans 14, Isaiah 45.
Imamo besedila v Filipljanom 2, Rimljanom 14 in Izaja 45,
Saying that indeed one day the whole earth will bow before the wisdom of God.
ki govori o tem, da se bo nekega dne celotna zemlja priklonila pred Božjo modrostjo.
But actually they will bow not because they are convinced in their hearts.
Toda priklonili se ne bodo zato, ker so prepričani v svojem srcu,
And so there is no solution for their future.
ker ni rešitve za prihodnost.
And basically they choose their own future.
Oni izbirajo svojo prihodnost.
Let me just say one more thing here. This is my brother's slide on Jude 1.
Eno stvar bi tukaj omenil.
You know, it says that they will be tormented forever in eternal fire.
Beremo o tem, da bodo večno mučeni v večnem ognju.
You have this text in Jude which says that Sodom and Gomorrah also received, they are an example of this torture.
Besedilo v Judovem listu pravi, da sta Sodoma in Gomora zgled tega mučenja.
So if you go to Israel today,
Če greste danes v Izrael,
you will discover that they are under the sea level of the Dead Sea.
boste ugotovili, da sta Sodoma in Gomora pod gladino mrtvega morja.
There's no fire burning there.
Noben ogenj ne gori tam.
So it's a metaphoric language, right? Saying the consequences now are forever.
Gre za metaforičen jezik, ki govori o tem, da so posledice večne.
Okay, and then finally, after evil is done away with,
In potem, končno potem, ko je zlo odstranjeno,
then God begins to heal
potem Bog začne zdraviti.
in the new environment.
In to v novem okolju.
Or maybe I should say, wipe away the tears that still perhaps are there.
Ali izbriše solze, ki so morda še vedno tukaj.
It's not necessarily the why questions anymore,
Ne gre nujno za vprašanja, zakaj.
but the experience with evil was painful for everybody.
Ampak izkušnja je bila boleča za vse.
And so God will do what He always wanted to do.
In Bog bo takrat naredil to, kar je vedno hotel narediti.
He will move together with His creation, with His people to live among them.
Skupaj bo živel s svojim stvarstvom, s svojim ljudstvom.
And it says the former things have passed away,
Besedilo pravi, da je prejšnje minilo.
and in Revelation 22, there is water of life, tree of life, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
In v Razodetju 22, od prve vrstice naprej, da obstaja reka žive vode, drevo življenja, ki je zdravilo narodu.
And there shall be no more curse.
In nobenega prekletstva ne bo več.
And the journey of humanity continues where it began in Genesis 1 and 2.
In pot človeštva se nadaljuje tam, kjer se je začela v prvi Mojzesovi knjigi.
You know, new earth, the paradise, would not be paradise for God's people if there was somewhere a separate existence of evil in the universe.
Nova zemlja, raj, ne bi bil raj za Božje ljudstvo, če bi nekje v vesolju obstajal kraj, kjer bi zlo bilo še vedno navzoče.
So evil has to go in all form, physical and internal as well.
Zato mora biti zlo odstranjeno v vseh oblikah, telesnih kot tudi notranjih.
God will fulfill his promise as he gave to Adam and Eve that he will undo the evil that came to this world.
Bog bo izpolnil svojo obljubo, ki jo dal Adamu in Evi, da bo odstranil zlo, ki je prišlo.
Okay, this is the big summary of the day of the Lord.
To je povzetek, veliki povzetek Gospodovega dne.
And in the second presentation after the break,
In v drugi prezentaciji po odmoru
we'll have a look specifically at the letter to Romans,
si bomo ogledali pismo Rimljanom
and we'll look how all this end time gospel is linked with the good message of our salvation.
in pogledali, kako je ta evangelij časa konca povezan s poročilom o našem zveličanju.
The second